Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach. Today we have with us Rob Braiman, who's the founder and CEO of Cogent Analytics. Rob, welcome to the program.
Mike, thanks for having me on today.
You are welcome, and I'm excited to learn about what you do because analytics sounds very numerical, but I know you do much more than just number advising. So give us a little bit of your entrepreneurial background and what led you into this industry.
So Cogent Analytics is my fourth entrepreneurial endeavor, and odd as that might be, I'm launching another company in about 30 days, which is a prosthetic.
Serial entrepreneur is.
I am. I truly am a serial entrepreneur. I actually just invested in another entrepreneur. But, if we were to go back into history of time, Mike, I have had a very diverse group of different companies that I've held. I have been blessed enough to have been successful in my entrepreneurial journey. And now Cogent Analytics, which is really my baby, represents small business owners as a function or trade. We are a management consulting group to the small business community. And for us, it's as much a passion as it is a job. I would say as much to say that the people that come to work at Cogent Analytics now really take this on as a mission. And frankly, that's how we've grown. It is how our footprint has continued to expand, and we have really had clients trumpet, their successes. Our successes really is true their success. And sorry for the run-on sentence.
Oh no, that's exactly what we want. What are you doing to serve your clients? And as a business consultant, that's a pretty broad statement. And I know you get into everything from strategic planning to sales performance to succession planning. Everything from the front end planning to the end planning the succession. So talk a little bit about where your sweet spot is. Typically, when you work with a company, what are they coming to you to accomplish?
Every entrepreneurial journey is a little different, but the way we've disrupted the small business consulting arena is we don't look at a client relationship in the form of a binder guy. Yeah. And I say that as deprecating as it's meant to be. Most consultants, you hand them their watch and they'll tell you what time it is. You got it. Like it's just horrible. What the reputation that consulting was earned over many, many years of charging a lot of money for a couple of great ideas that never get used. And I've been in the industry long enough that really when I started Cogent Analytics 9 years ago, it was all about changing the approach to the small business owner. I knew how I would want to be represented. And you made mention of the pillarized system. We do many things with our clients. The narrative changes a little bit based on the client story, but we have what's called the Profit Platform, which is a registered trademark for Cogent Analytics, and it truly is the foundational approach by which we look at every client. And it doesn't matter whether you're a $200,000 business or a $2 billion business. The four pillars of business are consistent throughout business modeling. Now, the pillarized system really is business development, which is comprised of sales and marketing. How do we make it rain? Organizational engineering, that's all things people. That's the right hats, right heads, the right seats in the right chairs, so to speak. It touches remuneration and benefits, incentives, compensation, operational engineering. And I always say to people, that's what you do and how you do it. So it doesn't matter whether you're a contractor, a manufacturer, a transportation company. Operational engineering is really the management of process management. And then measurement, which is the final pillar, is both financial and operational. So if you think about measuring anything within a company, it is about communication. It's how do you get your employees to perform both well on quality assurance standards and to time standards i.e., that's what drives profit. And we're doing an audio show, so I don't want to geek out too much on your audience. Your audience can go to look at the pillarized system if they would care to do so. But I believe, and have always believed, that if you start a company with a really good, solid, well thought out plan, the next function is, how do you make it rain? How do you get your people engaged? How do you build the right culture? How do you develop a good process so you can do the work that you do profitably? And how do you measure that, financially or operationally, so that you can make a profit, Mike?
That's huge. And I love how you phrase it, profit engineering. And I think that a lot of people have the misnomer of, hey, Rob, I need your help. We need more revenue because we need more bottom line, money to use for other purposes. But my suspicion is what they forget to take into effect is what's in between, meaning we need more top line revenue so that we get more bottom line output. But what's in between could be massive holes in the bucket. Like, oh my word, you have inefficiencies in expenses, in whatever the case is. So talk a little bit about where you look for opportunities to plug up holes so that when increased revenue happens, then it's going to be much more efficient.
So profit engineering, and yeah, I'm going to really distill it down and make it minimalistic when I do this. Again, we're at an audio show and I'm not geeking out on a whiteboard. But if you were to conceptually think about revenue less all of the costs in your business translates into what you get to keep, called profit.
Yeah.
And in reality, we teach clients that revenue less profit equals what you get to spend. So now I could get into break even, and I could get into, absorption management. I could get in, but that's not going to translate very well for today's show. So, if you think about it and you're listening to an entrepreneur, the number one thing that drives cash flow in your business, your ability to fund your own future, this wealth creation vehicle called your business. Profit sometimes turns into a dirty word for some small business owners because the first thing they think is greed, and it's not. Profit is the oxygen in the room. Profit is what drives cash flow. Profit is what drives liquidity, and profit is what drives equity value. So, it's what you do with the profit that you make that really defines you as an individual. And Mike, please understand, I don't do very well with just the greed, me type of entrepreneur. Most of our clients are really good, hardworking, honest, decent, that entrepreneurial spirit that has driven our country for hundreds of years. That is the mainstay of the entrepreneurial spirit. Making a profit really is, you can give back to your community, you can give back to your church, you can give back to your employees in the form of incentivization or bonus, you can give back in the form of perquisites. But it also is, with all the burden you take as a small business owner, with the signature every time you sign a loan document, or the exposure you have to taxation, or the exposure that you have to your vendors, there has got to be a return on investment if you're willing to take that much risk. So profit isn't a bad word, first. And profit engineering is a function of treating profit as the most important function at the end of the day of a business. And you can engineer profit, right? You can minimize your total cost and overhead expense. You can manage to an employee efficiency. You can use a fractional absorption across the different product lines or profit centers that you have. And I know this is a really deep conversation for today's show, but the best thing I can communicate is that profit is the oxygen in a room.
Yeah, I mean, and deep nothing, we need to realize that in order to succeed in business, you need to focus on certain pillars, like what we're talking about here, having a strategic plan that leads to engineering the right kind of profit, which then gives you the flexibility to use that profit to what? Corporate social responsibility, pay your employees, all of those things. And one of the drivers, the oxygen to profit could be sales performance improvement. And that's a pillar that you guys, talk about. And how about in order to have sales performance, you need to have good leadership and organizational engineering to drive that team. So all of those things really tie well together to have the end result be, we got to turn a profit or else we turn the lights out. And then we got to turn enough of a profit long term so that we can talk about one day down the road, have exit or succession planning.
So that's the pillarized system. And the reason why we broke it down in a manageable pillarized system that we teach clients, a lot of people who go into entrepreneurship have a great idea and a great skill set, but they don't come into business with the raw business skills. So, what we've tried to do is break it down into operational segments that you can approach on a very consistent basis. And it is much easier to learn and affect change and be able to have the highest rate of return or functionality for both the owners and the employees, right? Culture is so critical in today's world. We do a lot of cultural change with our clients who I think it's, they have a struggle. You have generational and cultural inter-exchanges that happen within business today. You and I are a little different generation than the generation of, say, the 25-year-old to 30-year-old. And you have some cultural differences that have existed even when our parents were managing us. I always make a joke with a client. They always talk about the new generation. And I said, well, if you go back 30 years, we were the ones that our parents were talking about.
Yep. Here we are.
Right. And it changes the narrative a little bit for the small business owner. And I think that's true in every generation, is that, your business has to evolve and you have to be able to communicate effectively. Well, how do you do that? Then to use a pillarized system that can well communicate the goals of the organization, the spirit of the organization, what our mission, vision, and values are in the organization, and how do you get other people, frankly, to make your business better? Because, I use a term called intrapreneurial thinking as opposed to entrepreneurial, right? And intrapreneurial is that ownership thinking that employees take on because they feel vested in the organization which they serve. Most people are good people.
Many people haven't heard of that term before, but I've taught a college level class called intrapreneurialism. And it's a thing. It's not just some little fun word that someone made up. It's the entrepreneurial mindset under the umbrella of a corporate structure. And if a person on a team can take that entrepreneurial mindset and go, ooh, if this was my money, or if this was my project, I'd get creative this way, or I would launch this. The owners of a company want their people to be intrapreneurial.
That's actually a great podcast for another day, because I do the same thing. I do a class at High Point University with the entrepreneurs class, right? They have a whole course study in entrepreneurship, and intrapreneurial is what I teach as well. So that's a whole other podcast for another day.
Exactly. Hey, so
and it is a thing, by the way.
It is. It's not just some fun little word that someone came up with. It's a literal thing. So that's awesome. So I want to wrap up with this question, Rob. With all of these pillars, from strategic planning and profit engineering and organizational engineering, all of these things, A to Z in a business, if you were to show these pillars to a business owner and say, this is what we will consult you on, what do you do to make sure they don't feel overwhelmed, like, oh my word, this is a too big of a mountain to climb? But what do you do to make sure they realize that you're going to give them the 30,000 foot view? Here's where we're headed, but don't worry, we're going to guide you along the process. We're with you every step of the way.
So we changed our process really the day I opened the door, because there's different roles and responsibilities for each department. And we have a wonderful business development team that really introduces the pillars to clients before our analysts go in and we do a deep dive. And much different than most consultancies out in America today. A lot of consultancies will say, here's the problem, here's the book. And they're always trying to suck you into that build hour.
Yeah.
We have taken a much different approach in that our discovery process, we have a very, very low entry point for our clients. Because I'm an entrepreneur, I believe the discovery process itself is having another president come into your business and have, pull you up above the trees, so to speak, because most often you're living in your forest every day. Our discovery is about really working through the pillars with the client and breaking their business down with them and their team. And to me, it's about empowerment, right? I've never cared whether somebody moves on to a consulting engagement with Cogent Analytics. Happens all the time, but it's not our function. The function is to be able to represent every small business owner we can, because it's such a profound experience to take a look at your business from the standpoint of working on it instead of just working in it.
Yes.
And we do hundreds, if not thousands, of discoveries every single year with small business owners all across our country. And that's the number one feedback that we get from our clients, is that discovery process, being able to look at their business in a holistic way. Most often is the first time they've had a chance to do it. Their accountant doesn't do it with them. Their attorney doesn't do it with them. That to me is our burden. That's my mission. That's my goal, is to really work with the entrepreneurs of America and to be able to make that type of profound difference and break it down in a way in the pillars that it becomes a consumable instead of becoming overwhelming, which is really the question you asked.
Awesome. Well, Rob, it sounds like you guys have your finger to the pulse of the small business community, and I love your approach to pillarized content and progression. So if someone's interested in reaching out and learning more about Cogent Analytics, what's the best way they can learn more and then connect with you guys?
We keep it as simple as humanly possible. It's cogentanalytics.com, COGENT, cogentanalytics.com, which, by the way, Mike, means powerful argument. So powerful argument in analytics, cogentanalytics.com. And our 800 number is 833-4MY-PROFIT. That's the number 4MY-PROFIT. We have advisors every single day talking to small business owners. It's not like we start the clock and start billing people. I really have taken an altruistic approach to the entrepreneurial community. So if there's any interest in your audience today, please go to the website. We have white papers and case studies and testimonials that, if that in some small way helps you make a decision in your business today, you don't necessarily have to call you, but I'd love to field the phone call. Please use the resources that we've made available. It really is leadership thinking.
Well, Rob, thank you so much for coming on today. It was a real pleasure having you.
Mike, always a pleasure. Thanks for having me back on the show.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneurssradio.com.